Welcome to Got Lucky, Get Happy. Today we're going to talk about Damson Plums. This is an ancient plum, and there's so much to talk about this little round purple plum. But first, I think I'll tell you a little bit about my experience. I was uncertain that those plums were for the taking. It was dark when I walked on the landscaped gravel between the spiky hawthorn and the leggy Damson plum bush. I decided that I need more plums, as my diet would dictate. I needed them. They were juicy, purple, tart, delicious gifts from Mother Nature that must be had. They were beautiful and ripe, and I couldn't stop thinking about when should I go back and take more. I struggled with whether or not to feel guilty. I struggled with my desire. What if I went back and knocked on the door of the nearest house and the people who owned the plot denied me? What if they said no? Maybe I shouldn't ask next time. I ate my lunch and was ready for dessert. And of course, all I wanted was the handful of sweet Damson plums. I'd been experiencing unfounded joy at the thought of obtaining more, so I decided that I would take a walk to the plum bush right then and there. I grabbed a small shopping bag, $5 just in case the people wanted money, and a mask, because COVID-19. I decided that I would knock on the door of the folks who could be the owners of the land on which the wonderful wild plums grew. My husband came with me, ready to commit thievery should no one answer the door. I was committed to taking plums, succumbing to my desire for this Concord grape mouth-watering gift of the gods. We walked until we came upon the plum bush. We looked at it for a short while and assessed that the limbs with the most dangling fruit were outside of the property line. Guiltily still, I picked about 20 plums and dropped them in my shopping bag. We skirmished away quickly, and I proceeded to eat my fill. As you do, I wikied Damson Plums, and I found some interesting information. The plum seeds are found often during archaeological digs of ancient Roman camps across England. Let's see, I'll read this to you. One commonly stated theory is that the damsons were first cultivated in antiquity in the area around the ancient city of Damascus, capital of modern-day Syria, and were introduced into England by the Romans. So, the Romans first brought the damson plum to the English and all of Europe over time. And the seeds have been found during archaeological digs of ancient Roman camps across England. So clearly they've been cultivated for centuries. So the plum tree that I took plums from is here in Colorado. And there are lots of wild plum trees here in Colorado. A lot of cherry plum trees as well, wild up in the mountains. So don't know how they got here, but I mean, the U.S. was colonized by the English, so they brought all their good damson plums and planted them in Colorado and everywhere else. The climate in Colorado is very dry and desert-like during the summer, and that's when they're ripest, towards the end of the season, towards the end of summer, this month, which is September 1st. And I think they've only been ripe for about a week, so I got lucky. The damson bush is, once it's established, it's usually really big and pretty tall. Like the one that I saw was like 8 feet by 8 feet at least. In the spring when they are flowering, the blossom is white, and the plum bush is self-pollinating. It's actually a tree, but really it looked like a giant bush. You get tons and tons of fruit. There were tons and tons of plums, hundreds and hundreds of plums, and I wanted to pick them all. If you grow your own Damson plum tree, it's recommended that you space them 18 feet to 20 feet apart. The scientific name is Prunus domestica subspecies Institia, and that's spelled Institia. Higher classification is common plum. My husband grew up in a house with a big damson tree on the property, and he was in charge of mowing the lawn, and the damson plums would fall to the ground, and he decided the damson plum was his nemesis. Meanwhile, I seek them out. I love them. I think about them. I talk about them. So chances are, if we ever settle into a house that has enough land to plant a damson plum tree, he probably won't let me, unless it's like way in the back corner with no grass underneath. When I was a little girl, my grandmother had a plum tree on her property, but it was a red plum tree, and they would grow about as big as my cheek, and they would get ripe and the sun would heat them up, and they were sweet and tart and wonderful, and I would go out there and eat so many. So I've got a special affection for plums. Also, check out the website foggydalefarm.co.n as in Nancy, Z as in zebra, and read all about Linda Hallinan and the book that she wrote called Hedgerow to Harvest. It's 256 pages of goodness. She's a New Zealander, and she's a gardening writer, broadcaster, columnist, and television presenter. And she looks really nice, you guys. You should check out the website. The flavor of the damson plum would be described as astringent, which in my language means tart, my favorite. You can see a picture of the damson plums growing on a bush here, and you can see my haul, which is right here. I got about 24 plums, and I'll spread those out for desserts over a week's period. I'll probably eat them all tomorrow. I just love those things. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video about damson plums, and be sure to subscribe and like this video. Have a lucky day, have a happy day. Thank you for watching.